Each day, we learn that the world is a much scarier place than we could have ever imagined. Check out these clips to have more insight into just how scary the world is. What do you know of the Tataria Empire? I bet nothing. History seems to have wiped from our memory the fact that a more civilized and sophisticated clan lived earlier than we knew. Check this video out to know about the Tataria Empire.
History has been lying to us. There was a civilization called the Tartaria Empire that was far superior and more sophisticated than we could ever imagine. They were able to use the atmospheric energy to obtain electricity, and by having free energy, they were able to focus on more pressing and more important endeavors such as creativity, love, and self-development. Their advancements influenced great feats and built vast cities and infrastructure all over the world. However, due to the rise in the influence of the civilization, it was said that they were systematically destroyed, with their buildings knocked down and technological advancements erased from our history books by oppressors to keep us all enslaved and in check. That's why many people say that.
For those that have found it hard to believe the possibility of a sea monster with the length ascribed to the Kraken, this clip would show you that there is a possibility we have something worse than the Kraken in the seas.
The Kraken is real. According to stories, no sea monster was as horrifying as the Kraken. This huge, many-armed creature could reach as high as the top of a sailing ship's mast, wrapping their arms around the hull to crush it before capsizing it. What's amazing about the Kraken stories is that of all the sea monster tales that we've heard, this one has evidence based on something real. In July 2012, scientists filmed the first video of a live giant squid swimming some 2,000 feet below the surface of the Pacific Ocean. The creature was 55 meters long and was said to be a baby version of what it could grow up to be. So, is it so hard to believe that?
Is the Kardashian family battling with the curse from the Armenian witches truly? How else do we explain the pattern of fame and wealth in the lives of their women and nothing but shame and disgrace in the men? Something has to be going on.
The Kardashians cursed all the men in their lives. It was alleged that a woman who was an ancestor of the Kardashians sacrificed her soul to 4 witches in Armenia in order for all the women in her bloodline to always have fame, fortune, and beauty, while the men around them suffer. Just to take a look at a few of them: Scott Disick, who went from being a relatively successful businessman to developing severe alcoholism and depression in front of the whole world; Travis Scott, who went from having the #1 album in 2018 then becoming the most hated and disgraced artist of all time, and not releasing an album since; Caitlyn Jenner, who ruined her relationship with Kris and her children, and later got ostracized by her own community; Kanye West, from being at the top of his career to being locked in a mental hospital and running his 2020 presidential run; Pete Davidson, now undergoing trauma therapy after the negative media attention from being with Kim. With all that said, it isn't really a long shot to say that.
The iron lung. Turns out, a shot of medicine is what's keeping the better part of Earth's population from being under the help of the iron lung. Check out what it is about in this next clip.
The iron lung. Before the vaccine of polio was widespread and accessible, the death rate for it was up to 30%. But even if death wasn't your final stop, you would still have persisting symptoms of decreased tolerance to cold and hot temperatures, trouble breathing, sleeplessness, fatigue, and paralysis. But the iron lung was used for the trouble breathing, named the cure for respiratory failure caused by poliomyelitis. It's powered by a motor that pumps air to change the pressure inside the metal cylinder, pulling air in and out of your lungs. Though seeming like a relic of the distant past, here is Paul Alexander today, still on one. He was an average kid until he contracted polio when he was only 6 years old. Ever since, his life has relied on the efforts of this machine. Without it, he would not survive. It's crazy to think. A little shot can prevent a lifetime of suffering.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at the business end of an iron lung. And that sound that you'll hear is the air being forced into the lungs so that the patient can breathe.
Who was truly behind the murder of Susan Cadew? To date, no one knows who this man was, why he picked the 5-year-old girl, or what she had done to deserve to die with her tears frozen on her face. Maybe we would know someday.
Who killed Susan Cadieux? In the yard of St. Mary's Catholic Church in Ontario, Canada, 5-year-old Susan Cadieux was playing with her 2 brothers, Michael and Patrick. Their neighbor Virginia was playing too. It was evening time on Friday, January 6th. The children were eventually approached by a tall man, who was unshaved and thin. The boys described him as wearing a brown coat and black boots. He claimed to have an appointment with the priest at the church. Virginia, the neighbor, fell on some ice, and while the 2 brothers were distracted helping her up, the strange man left with 5-year-old Susan, convincing her he had some treats for her nearby. Once they noticed Susan was gone, they looked everywhere with their parents, and then ended up calling the police. Not surprisingly, the priest hadn't scheduled a man for an appointment that day. Later that night, they decided they'd take a break and pick up looking for Susan in the morning. At approximately 10 a.m. the next morning, they found her, dead, laying in a warehouse nearby, clothes torn off, body covered in bruises, and with her own tears frozen to her face. It was later found out her life had only been taken 3 hours before being found.
In this video, you're about to see one of the most haunted places in Louisiana, the Grunch. The background story of this place is extremely shocking, especially since it has a bit of cannibalism in it. Well, maybe not a little.
Haunted Places in Every U.S. State, Part 18. Louisiana. The Grunch. Grunch Road is an old dirt road that leads deep into the woods and eventually to a dead end. It was a favorite place for teenagers to go and do whatever teenagers do, until they learned about the Grunch. The Grunch are rumored to be a group of deformed, half-human, half-monsters that resulted from years of isolation in the Louisiana bayous. In the present day, it's said that if you find yourself on Grunch Road, don't get out of your car if you see an animal that's injured and looks like it needs help. The stories say that the Grunch use animals such as goats to lure people out of their cars so they can eat them and drain their blood.
What do you know about the Goat Man of Pope Lick? This is the story of one of the most haunted places in the United States. This time, this haunted story takes its location in Kentucky.
Haunted Places in Every U.S. State, Part 17. Kentucky. The Goat Man of Pope Lick. There's no clear consensus on how the Goat Man came to be. Some say he was a circus performer. Others say he was a farmer who tortured his goats for Satan, and in return was transformed into a hideous goat monster. However, everyone does agree on his appearance: dark fur, pale skin, goat legs, and horns. The monster is said to hide under the bridge at Pope Lick Creek in Louisville to lure people onto the tracks, only to see them hit by oncoming trains. Sadly, this urban legend has had some dangerous consequences. In 2016, an Ohio woman fell to her death from the bridge while looking for the Goat Man. Well, the official story is that she fell. Some believe that she did successfully find the Goat Man and then was thrown off by him.
This clip, we have no words concerning it. You need to see it for yourself to understand how disturbing this clip is.
Question that has long plagued police is, what do we make of the McGrady tapes? So back in 2001, at a Blockbuster in McGrady, North Carolina, a car drove by in the parking lot and just dropped a tape outside of the building. So employees saw that and they went outside to get the tape and they were like, who would drop a tape off like that? Until they looked at it and they noticed something was wrong. This was the tape that was recovered from the parking lot and it was completely unlabeled. According to the story, they took it to the back room where they were able to play it back, and this was the footage they found. It is a 40-minute video of a person's face looking under what looks like a bathroom stall, and it's completely silent, like straight uncut 40 minutes of this and the cameraman just breathing heavily while they videotape this. Management turned the tape over to police, and the strangest part is that a search canine signaled that the tape had traces of human decomp on it. To this day, whoever's behind the McGrady tape is a mystery.
Clips like this make you wonder just how sick a person must be to be caught following a child. I mean, what exactly would have happened if the little girl wasn't aware she was being followed?
In 2019, a young girl was followed for several blocks by a man in his car as she was walking home from school. This is literally every parent's worst nightmare. Fortunately, the little girl was smart and was able to get away. The incident was captured on a neighbor's outdoor security camera. The young girl was aware of the car following her, so when she walked past a big truck parked on the street, she hid behind it. The man in the vehicle waited for her to come out from behind the truck for a couple of minutes, and then he pulled away. The little girl stayed hidden behind the trucks, which was a good decision because the man turned around and tried to look for her again. He even tried to ask her a question about school, but she stayed quiet and stayed hidden. The man eventually gave up and drove off, and the girl sprinted the rest of the way home. Had she not been aware of her surroundings, there's no telling what could have happened to her.
It sure is strange how quickly a person can move from being a YouTube celebrity to staying behind bars after committing a criminal offense. You should be familiar with the name.
These are YouTubers who became criminals, part 1. Up first is Hayes Greer. You guys might remember him from Vine, but recently in 2021, he was arrested after assaulting a man and leaving him with brain damage. He apparently beat up the man and then swiped his phone. Not only did he leave the victim with brain damage, but also a broken left orbital bone, bruised ribs, and even hearing loss. Next is Trey Seisler. He was a YouTuber under the name of Landscape Productions with a total of 320 videos. But on March 20th, 2012, he killed his father, mother, and brother in Waller, Texas. God forgive me, for I cannot forgive myself. With the bodies of his family members shot multiple times underneath. He later admitted to the police that he killed them because he did not want them to know that he planned on shooting up his high school. He was charged with capital murder.
On today's episode of Videos Humans Were Never Meant to See, we have the Northern Lights. It's scary and amazing at the same time.
These are videos humans were never meant to see, part 24. Okay, so we all know how beautiful the Northern Lights are. And they're probably one of the coolest things that comes with living on Earth. But I guarantee you never saw the Northern Lights directly from underneath them. This person was standing directly underneath the Northern Lights and he took a video. And it might be the best thing you will ever see in your entire life.
Oh, look up! Look up! Oh! Oh! Oh!
What the hell? This is awesome. Look at that! Look at it here!
Oh!
Which of these clips didn't seem like a scare to you? Tell us in the comments.